Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the YouTube audiobook series for The Forbidden Truth, written by Abby Matthias. I am Abby Davis, and today I will be introducing Chapter 27. If you missed Chapter 26, link is in the description below, along with the playlist. And if you are all caught up and ready to go, we will continue on with Chapter 27, Final Touches.
It's human instinct to naturally judge each and every person we meet, a nature that helps people define a person to be good or bad. Yet that kind of behavior could also be considered as toxic, like acid, especially if the victim does encounter a morally incorrect person. As for the moment I saw what Satan did to Abby, I was the most ill-willed being I have ever been. I was a chamber holding tons of toxic gas, ready to poison and kill every demonic being I encountered. Yet I had to reassure myself to keep all those feelings within their locked vessel, so the ones I truly loved didn't see my true emotions. While my son was trying to console his girlfriend along with myself, Nala began to wipe down the bite wound upon my human shoulder. Of course, Abby winced in pain, and I kept talking through her pain to help build her self-esteem again. Once it was cleaned, my wife sprayed the bottle of antiseptic one time. I say once, because that was like a knife being stabbed through Abby according to her scream. Immediately she lifted her hand and grasped at the wound. My hand followed shortly after hers, however it was an attempt to calm her and pull hers away. I was trying to explain the reason why it was hurting so much, and that it meant it was actually working. Yet before I could get my whole rant out, my hand began to glow magenta and red as it covered her entire shoulder. I firmly believe I can speak for everyone at this point. We all sat in amazement watching this scene take place, a force of red and magenta mixing with each other. Yet as I peered at my protected child's face, she looked more relaxed and calm. Her grunts and groans of pain dissipated, and I realized she was being healed again. Except this time, the color of the force was different. Technically speaking, it showed both of our colors and not just hers. It was confusing as it was, suddenly being able to heal within a matter of seconds. However, seeing the red within the energy this time threw me off. Regardless of that fact, I pushed all of my thoughts aside and took control of the situation. I managed to see the clock on the entertainment center read 3:10 a.m. and realized there was a little over 3 more hours until dawn. We were all awake, and everyone was shaken up. However, sleep was an important necessity. As of right now, we all needed to go back to bed. So upon my conclusive thoughts, I instructed everyone to go back to their rooms and get some rest. Abby wasn't going to be tormented anymore tonight, at least physically. Satan played his dirty trick. She would be safe for the rest of the time. As for me, I didn't know. Yet I didn't bring it up to anyone in order to keep the peaceful level of calmness. Eventually we all separated again, but I was the last to fall asleep. My mind ran in circles while I slightly tossed and turned. It wasn't until Nala wrapped her arm around mine to cuddle that I settled down a bit. And after about 10 minutes of watching her peacefully sleep, I drifted as well to that fantasy state where my dreams took place. For a while, there was nothing but darkness. We all know what it feels like. To be left in pitch black and guesstimating where our surroundings are. A void of silence that overtakes us and fills our bodies with concern or even fear. This particular darkness, though, was something I was used to. It didn't only signify my sleep, but it always initiated my nightmares. My repeated dream that I have had since day one of being a demon. And it was that black abyss where I now stood in pitch black, waiting for the spotlight to appear. After some time, it did, and I was exposed to a hole different environment. There was no spotlight. Rather, there were ceiling lights that shined dimly. But they still lit the room well enough for me to understand where I was. White walls and cupboards displayed, while different kinds of medical tools were stored on counters. Scalpels, metal trays, forceps, etc. Expensive equipment was also scattered on different tables. You could say it was like a science lab, except it was for medical purposes. Life-saving techniques and training was done in this room, and I recognized it. I recalled everything about the room. It was where I did my research. I was standing within Grandview Medical Hospital. Scanning the area more, I eventually saw that familiar man that I have dreamed of for so long. Finally realizing who it was, I saw my distressed self sitting at a desk with a pile of books. My red bow tie and black vest were unclasped and loosely hanging on my body. The sleeves of my burgundy shirt rolled up to my elbows while the top button was undone by my neck. My piercing blue eyes intently reading an open book, mumbling to myself. Along with that, the manila folder I always held was lying next to the book and boldly labeled Damien Stone. I was searching for answers about my son's cancer. It was another late night at the hospital, another night obsessing over my son's case and consumed by strife. Anyone could tell by my appearance that I was disheveled. Yet I could remember during the workdays I kept that overly happy facade. Then in the quiet and lonely hours of night, my true state of mind would show, and I would be just like this, a broken man.
Excuse me, sir.
A random voice called. Immediately I turned my head to see who was calling, and upon the sight I knew exactly who it was. The first man. Or to put it in bluntly obvious terms, Satan disguised as a human. He appeared in the doorway as the hall outside wasn't lit at all. More darkness stood outside of it. However, in the light, his face was shown and looked determined.
Can you please tell me where I can find Dr. Darius Stone? I need to see him.
Looking back at my human self, I stayed put with my nose in my book.
I'm Dr. Stone, but I'm not seeing anyone. It's after hours and you shouldn't even be here. Book an appointment like the other patients, and I will see you as soon as possible.
I'm not here because of my own health concerns,
he said. After knowing he found the right person, he began to walk into the room and make his way to the desk.
I need to discuss a few things with you.
While I'm not up for talking, I'm swamped and need to work. Sorry that you sought me out for nothing.
A grin appeared on the first man's face, like he found my statement amusing, unfazed by my response.
Oh, I think you will want to hear me out, Darius. It's about your son's cancer.
Instantly at his response, my human self stopped within its tracks and looked up at the strange man, even more disheveled, but even more shook than before.
How the hell do you know about that?
Through the grapevine.
That's impossible. I haven't told a soul about that. Now tell me how you found out.
I said with a demanding tone. I also stood up out of my chair and fully faced the man before me.
Dr. Stone, you know how news in this industry spreads like the wildfires in California. Just because you haven't told anyone doesn't mean that someone else didn't say anything. My guess would be that it started with Dr. Robinson.
A silence rose between the pair while I was frozen. Taking in this entire scene made my mind feel like spiraling. This wasn't an ordinary deal-making dream. This was showing me what exactly happened that night. From what I was doing to the entire conversation we had. I couldn't remember how this interaction went because of how long it has been since this very moment. Yet
by some greater means, I was reliving that exact night.
Well, I guess that shows how unprofessional he is. That, and the fact he wouldn't even tell us the news in simple terms. Instead, I was the one to stab my wife in the heart. Goes to show not to trust Dr. Robinson. Now, what is this about?
I said with dismay. It's about you and your situation. You spend your days pretending like nothing is wrong. But then at night you come here and start putting your nose in books and do research that has already been done. You have already put in so many hours and days within this hospital. Now you are adding additional hours and days with hopes to find answers. You could be at home with your wife and child and spending quality time together. Yet here is the great Darius Stone, the prized employee of Grandview Medical Hospital. Stressed, panicked, and dreadful.
With his opening statement, my human self slammed the open book shut and grabbed it before starting to walk away.
I'm not here to stand around and be intimidated by some random man who I don't even know. I have more important things to do than having you come in here to disrupt my progress. If that's all you had to say, then we are done here.
Across the room, I walked and placed the book back onto its original spot on the bookshelf, trying hard to keep my cool and escort the stranger out faster.
I'm not here to slow you down. I'm only trying to help you with your son's rhabdomyosarcoma, located within the left side of his chest wall, probably about the size of a dollar coin at this point, at least according to these scans. However, it's been almost a month since you first found out about it. It could be bigger.
My head turned rapidly to the devil, and saw he had the file within his hand and was examining the classified documents. Eventually, I heard the rushing tread of my feet clashing with the hard tile floor. I remembered that was the moment where I was going to yank the file out of his hands and yell at him for even touching it. And so it happened. My human body made it quickly to the first man and pulled the file forcefully away.
This is none of your concern and none of your business. This is confidential information that you are not allowed to have. You are breaking so many medical codes and could be sued by me for looking at that. An average citizen does not have the right to look at these files.
First of all, I am not an average citizen. I am a doctor just like you. I understand everything presented within that file, along with the multiple sheets of notes you have on your desk. I can visibly see all your hard work going towards this one patient instead of you dividing it up among the others. You're setting your priorities elsewhere and are becoming obsessed with this case,
he said, leaning up on the desk.
Well, of course I am. You can't tell me you wouldn't do the same for your child.
I exclaimed, holding Damien's file against my chest.
Of course I would. Who wouldn't? You and I may share the same profession as doctors, yet we don't share the same situation of having children with cancer.
A long pause formed between the pair while I focused on myself. I ended up pulling the file away from my body and opening up to view the contents again. The pure sorrow growing within me as each word hit me like a ton of bricks. Seeing the scan of the tumor within my child's chest. Realizing there was no set cure to attack the tumor without methods that destroy the body. Having all of that clashing at once, I shut the file again and hugged it in defeat.
I do have sympathy for you and your situation, so I am here to make you an offer.
I don't want your offer. This is my child's life, not an exchange of money. I have nothing to offer you in return, and I am not here to make offers. I just want my child to have an ordinary life.
I know you want your child to live a long and happy life. No parent wants to see their child die before them. Just hear me out.
There is nothing you can say that will help me or my family. My son is dying, and I am trying to find a way to stop it. So unless you have some miracle of a reason you can somehow find a method to fix my child, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Luckily for you, I do.
After that, he pulled the contract from behind his back as if summoning it out of thin air and waved it towards me. Confused and naive as ever, I grabbed it and began to stare at it as he continued to talk. The same words were bolded in the recognizable blue ink: cure, cancer, transfer, and work.
I will cure your child of cancer, guaranteed. They will live their life to the fullest. You and your family will watch your kid grow up, graduate, fall in love, have kids, and more. The only thing I ask in exchange is yourself.
Myself? What is that supposed to mean?
It means you come and work for me. You would leave this hospital and transfer to mine. I have been looking for a man that is as headstrong and determined as you. I have heard nothing but good things about you, and it would be a great privilege to work with such a brilliant mind. You are exactly what my hospital needs.
Whoa. Wait a minute here.
I said, finally protesting.
I can't just sign a contract with someone I don't even know. Who are you? Which hospital do you own, and where is it located? How is your staff? How do you know if I'm going to fit in with the rest of the workers?
Does it really matter?
The slender man asked, resentful.
You want to help your kid, right? I just told you that I could cure their cancer, no questions asked. It doesn't matter what the name or location is. You'll get to know the staff along the way as you adjust. But I know you will fit right in. Besides that, I think this is a pretty reasonable offer. A new workplace for a healthy offspring. Seems like a great deal to me.
Another silence filled the room while I waited with bated breath. Every deal-making dream I had was finally coming all together to form one single event. Regardless of me knowing what was going on or going to happen, I watched in amazement as I watched myself break the silence.
I'm sorry, but I can't sign this deal with you.
I lowered the contract to stare at the man across from me.
Not that this doesn't sound pleasing and unbelievable, but I like where I work now. The staff is wonderful and I like my patients. I would hate to leave for a different hospital and leave them all behind when they have given me so much. I can't just let that go.
At that moment, my human body tried to give the contract back, but Satan did not move an inch. Instead, he looked at me intently with more determination.
You're not just gonna throw away that chance because of some outsiders giving you a start, are you? Like you said before, this is your only child. It would be stupid of you not to take this reasonable offer. When are you gonna get this opportunity to fix your son? How will you gain the knowledge and grow if you don't branch out? How will your son live without my treatment? This is a chance for you to change everything and live on in peace. That's all you want for you and your family. Here's where you all can be happy again, like you used to be.
Reflecting upon his statement, I pulled the contract back to myself and debated on what to do. However, I didn't have much time to think before the stranger pulled out a pen and extended it out to me.
So, do we have a deal?
At that phrase, my stomach began to develop its usual repulsion feeling that it gets from that phrase. My human self grabbed the pen and hesitantly looked at the piece of paper, trying to contemplate on what to do. Within that moment, everything suddenly paused in time.
No one moved, nothing sounded, and I was looking at a motionless picture. Confused as to what was going on, an abrupt 3D option appeared near my face. I was perplexed as to why the hell this was even happening, but I played along with the sequence and read what it was asking me. Would you like to save the victim? Yes or no? I was faced with the option to save myself or not. As to why was not an answer that I would get. Despite that, I was now hesitantly reflecting on what to choose. If I choose yes, that would mean I would have a chance to save myself from my horrible fate. I would have to use all of my abilities to defeat Satan and allow myself to walk out of this room. It would definitely be a challenge. However, it was what I was trying to do this entire time. This was the moment I could prove myself worthy to save myself from the hands of the devil. Yet I could also say no. Then what would happen? Does that mean I would choose to fail and allow Satan to take me away from my family? Do I allow him to get what he wants and make me become the deal maker? Do I throw away all of my rage and frustration to have my fate become sealed? Nothing good would come out of saying no. But yet again, maybe I was looking at it the wrong way. With that thought in mind, I slowly began to reflect more and realized the reason why I should say no. This scene has already happened. I signed my life away 14 years ago, and a dream would not change that. Regardless of the time of torment and strife, I was once again happy with my life. Even though I was a demon, I wouldn't want it any other way. I was able to be with my family again through my current job. My wife and son still love me for who I am and don't care about what I look like. But lastly, without this demon life, I never would have met Abby Davis, the girl who gave me back my life after it was taken away. But in order to accept that fully, I needed to accept what happened and move on. Making a decision, I lifted my right hand up and pressed the red no button. Upon my choice, the scene picked up again and my human self signed the contract without further delay, using my son's file as a backboard to write upon. Again, the repulsive feeling in my stomach increased while the unbeating heart within my chest began to pound. My mind was sent into a slight frenzy because of the random heartbeat. Yet my eyes were still focused on my hand signing my name on the signature line. It went by a lot faster than what the usual deal-making dream portrayed. However, this was more like a memory instead of a fantasy land. This is what happened to me, and I was now accepting my past. Dark blue ink flowed from the pen to the paper, and as I finished signing my name, my stomach settled. My human body gave back the sheet of paper within its finished entirety. The man that I made the contract with began to smile as it was placed into his hands. His eyes scanned over my signature over and over and over until the entire deal poofed out of thin air. Then within a nanosecond, his eyes glowed a yellowish green and intensely stared at my blue ones. Looking back, I saw my face light up with confusion and perplexity. Along with that, my body stepped backward while lowering the medical file for Damien. You are mine,
the devil said within his designated raspy voice. At the phrase, he raised his left hand up and surrounded my body with red energy. At the supernatural phenomenon, I dropped my son's case file and peered at my arms and hands. However, before I could for very long, my feet slowly lifted off the ground to levitate me in the air. As that happened, the familiar red glow surrounded my actual body and left me confused. What the hell was happening? Why was I surrounded in that red force? Regardless of the questions, my eyes were still glued onto my human self as it stared cowardly at Satan.
What the hell is this? What are you?
I eventually cried.
The man you sold your life to. Congratulations.
After that, I tried to counteract what he was saying, yet I must have felt a sharp pain within my body, for the next thing I knew, my eyes flinched shut and I began to scream. Looking at myself, my skin color slowly began to change. The color red that I knew of now gradually traveled up my arms and consumed every part of my body. The nails on my hands darkened to black and began to grow and sharpen to points. Despite the changes I was seeing, the pain my human self endured at that moment was too much. My body fainted in that moment and went limp, while more of the changes occurred. As anyone can guess at this point, I watched myself being turned into the demon that I was. Except only this time, I was seeing the actual result of what happened after my deal. Once my transformation was complete, Satan changed himself into his true form and laughed at my foolishness. I was officially tricked into signing my life away and unknowingly gave up my human life for a demon one. Also, I wasn't aware of my reality until I found myself within the realm of hell. He only took more pleasure with that fact. And it was the sight of my unconscious body that I took in while my ears were filled with his evil laughter. Then, within a matter of 10 seconds, the only thing that was left in that room was my son's file, my briefcase, and my glasses. I was officially dragged down to my eternal damnation, never to be seen or heard from again. It was finished. Upon the ending of the deal, I realized that I felt extremely different, both physically and mentally. Yet before I could fully take in these changes, I heard another voice call to me. How does it feel to be free from your past? Turning myself to the one asking the question, I turned to find out it was me. I was staring at my demon self, who was smiling at me. The red eyes full of hope, the tan horns and red-textured shirt glimmering in the fluorescent lights, sunglasses hanging on the bridge of my nose. Even though I was somehow facing myself, he was still looking up to me for some reason. It was strange, but I still responded. I don't know. Is this what it feels like? I never felt this before. What am I feeling? Depends on what you are talking about. If you are talking about the change of your physical self, you're feeling power. Just look at how far you've come. At that remark, he stepped away from the wall as it changed into a giant mirror. Looking at the reflection, I saw that my body was once again manipulated. My second pair of arms were placed at my sides while my wings were in their resting stance. My muscles were protruding out and exposing themselves while I realized I grew in height. Gazing at this figure in the reflective glass, it looked powerful, intimidating, and ruthless. You've evolved into something more. You're not like other demons, Darius. I want you to understand that. I understand the fact that I'm different. These changes aren't just happening to anyone. But I need to know why I am. What am I supposed to think of myself? What greater plan is being set in motion that I don't know about?
Have you considered taking that random old man's words to heart and believing him? The one from the alley? I questioned. Because he could be delusional. I don't know him. For all I know, he is talking nonsense. The clues that he has given me have been far from explaining me. Especially the remark about how the chosen one will be like finding a needle in a haystack. I stick out like a sore thumb. Your physical appearance sticks out to the world, true. But there is a chance you are not thinking of the riddle correctly. There's a possibility there is a different answer to that statement. Regardless of that, I haven't finished my reply to your first question. Emotionally, you feel relief. Your regrets are washed away, and your burdens no longer haunt you. Now you can tell me why. I paused for a moment to think of my answer briefly, but it was somewhat obvious why I felt this way. Because I've accepted my past. I'm no longer fighting to change or save myself. Without this choice, I wouldn't have been able to grow and bond with Abby Davis. My family would still consider me dead and mourn my loss. Once I started to accept my past, I was able to move on and eventually rekindle with my family. Knowing my son is alive and well, I know I made the right choice. And I would do it again if it meant I could save him. Because of everything I love, I needed to stop trying to reverse something I couldn't change. Rather, I need to embrace it and look at the brighter side of it. Because without the deal, my life wouldn't be the same. Your transformation is almost complete, my other self said after a pause. There is still one more ability that you will be gifted. The most rare of powers that any demon can have. It will make itself known abruptly. However, once it's exposed to you, you will understand everything. The time is coming for you to step into your proper place and become your true self. The entity of greatness that you were supposed to be before your deal. Fate is on your side, my friend, and will reward you in time. Keep your head up for a little longer. Your eternal torment will be over soon. After that statement, I tried to talk again and ask more questions. However, before I could do so, the entire scene faded, and I felt kissing on my lips. Instinctively kissing back, I was dragged out of my dream by my wife. The affection lasted for about a minute before she pulled away and began to play with the collar of my shirt.
Hey,
She said with a soft voice.
you were stirring in your sleep. Were you having a nightmare?
No, far from. For the first time in a long time, I had a peaceful dream, I stated.
Well, I'm sorry to pull you away from it. Yet I figured it was time to get up. It's already 10 o'clock.
Oh, well, that's a little surprising. But I guess you're right. We can go and make brunch for the kids. Do something nice for them. Especially after what happened a few hours ago.
We could. But I want something else right now before then. How about we make them lunch instead?
Immediately after her question, she bent down and kissed me again. From there, things escalated again between us, and we were occupied for another hour until we finished. Once we were able, my wife and I walked out of the bedroom and sent ourselves to making lunch for the sleepy children in the basement.
This has been Chapter 27, final touches from the book The Forbidden Truth. Tune into the next video for Chapter 28. Thank you for listening.